I stood at the altar in a $15,000 gown, marrying a man who thought I worked double shifts at a diner just to afford rent, while in my bank account sat $700 million I'd never told him about. The chapel was small, intimate, tucked away in the modest outskirts of Portland, far from the glittering towers of wealth I'd grown up around. Rain tapped against the stained glass windows as I gripped a bouquet of grocery store daisies, my hands trembling not from nerves, but from the weight of the lie I was about to carry into forever. His name was River Castellano. Yes, like the flowing water, he'd joke. And he was the most genuine man I'd ever met. Dark hair that curled slightly when wet, eyes the color of warm honey, and a smile that made me believe in goodness again. He wore a suit he'd borrowed from his best friend, and when he looked at me, he saw Mara Sinclair, the girl who served coffee at dawn, studied accounting at night, and dreamed of a simple life. He didn't see Maribel Sinclair Thornfield, heiress to the Thornfield industrial fortune, daughter of Judge Robert Thornfield and Catherine Sinclair Thornfield, whose family owned everything from pharmaceutical companies to luxury hotel chains across 3 continents. He didn't know that I'd walked away from it all 2 years ago, desperate to know if anyone could love me for me, not for the empire stitched to my last name. "I do," River said, his voice steady, filled with a love so pure it nearly broke me. The officiant turned to me, my throat tightened. Tell him now." But I couldn't, because I'd seen what money did to people. I'd watched my own mother orchestrate marriages like corporate mergers, seen my father use his fortune as a weapon in courtrooms and boardrooms alike. I'd been engaged once before, to Harrison Blackwell, a hedge fund prince whose love evaporated the moment I told him I was leaving the inheritance behind. He'd laughed in my face, called me a fool, and by morning had announced his engagement to my cousin. So when I met River, beautiful, struggling, real River, I made a choice. "I do," I whispered. And just like that, I became Mrs. Castellano, bride to a man who thought he'd married someone just like him. Broke, hopeful, and building a life from nothing. But secrets in silk gowns have a way of unraveling when you least expect them. Our apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up with a radiator that clanged like a prisoner rattling chains. River worked construction, brutal 12-hour days that left his hands calloused and his shoulders aching. I kept up my charade, working at Brenda's Diner on 5th Street, pouring coffee for truckers and students, while my family's lawyers sent encrypted emails I deleted without reading. But I couldn't completely sever myself. Through a shell corporation I'd set up, I'd been anonymously funding small businesses in struggling neighborhoods, including the construction company River worked for. I made sure his paychecks were fair, that safety regulations were followed, that good men like him weren't exploited. He never knew. We'd been married 6 months when River came home one evening, eyes bright with excitement I hadn't seen since our wedding day. "Mara, baby, you won't believe it." He spun me around our tiny kitchen, still in his work boots. "I got promoted. Project manager, 20% raise. We can finally start saving for that house you wanted." My heart cracked and swelled simultaneously. "River, that's incredible." They said I earned it, that someone upstairs noticed my work ethic. He pulled me close, resting his forehead against mine. "Everything's coming together. I'm going to give you the life you deserve. You already have, I wanted to say, but instead, I kissed him, tasting sawdust and hope. That night, as he slept beside me, I stared at the water-stained ceiling and wondered how long I could sustain this. My brother Julian had been calling relentlessly. I'd let every call go to voicemail. My mother had sent private investigators, I was certain, though I'd been careful. I'd legally changed my name years ago, hidden behind layers of legal protection. But nothing stays hidden forever, especially when your past is as relentless as mine. Before we continue with Mara's unraveling secret, if you're hooked on this story of hidden identities and impossible love, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what happens next will change everything you think you know about this marriage. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. It happened on a Tuesday. I was wiping down tables at the diner, my hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing the same uniform I'd worn 100 times. The bell above the door chimed. I glanced up reflexively and froze. Julian Thornfield walked in, 6'3" of tailored arrogance, in a suit that cost more than River made in 3 months. My brother, the golden heir who'd never forgiven me for walking away. Our eyes met. His lips curved into a smile that held no warmth. "There you are," he said, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. "Big sister." My blood turned to ice. "Julian, not here. Not now." "Why not? I've been searching for Mara Sinclair," he said the false name with vicious emphasis, "for months. Imagine my surprise when I finally tracked down my runaway heiress sister and find her pouring coffee. Brenda, my boss, looked between us, confused. "Mara, you know this guy?" "Unfortunately," I said quietly. Julian slid into a booth, making himself comfortable. "We need to talk. Family business. Father's dying, if you care, though I suppose you proved you don't 2 years ago." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe less. He wants to see you. Mother's demanding it, actually. Something about making amends before he goes." Julian's expression was unreadable. So here I am, dragging the lost sheep home. I couldn't breathe. My father, stern, impossibly distant Robert Thornfield, was dying. "I need time," I managed. "You don't have time, and there's more." Julian leaned forward. "The inheritance, the will. Everything changes when he dies, Mara. You walked away, but you can't just erase your stake in the company. Legal complications. You need to come home, sign papers, handle this properly, or the entire corporate structure collapses and 5,000 employees lose their jobs." It was manipulation, I knew. Julian was a master at it, but there was enough truth threaded through the lies that I couldn't ignore it. "I have a life here," I whispered. "Do you?" His gaze was sharp. "Does your husband know who you really are? Or does River Castellano think he married some scrappy working girl playing Cinderella in reverse?" My hands clenched into fists. "Don't. Don't what? Tell him the truth. That his wife is worth more than everyone in this pathetic diner combined. That she's been lying to him since the day they met." Julian stood, dropping $100 bill on the table, an obscene tip meant to make a point. "You have 1 week. Come home, handle your responsibilities, or I'll handle them for you. And I promise, Mara, you won't like my methods." He left, and the diner felt impossibly small. I had 7 days to decide: protect my marriage or face my past. I didn't realize I'd lose both. I told River I needed to visit a sick relative. Not entirely a lie, just wrapped in enough truth to ease my conscience. He insisted on coming with me, but I convinced him the construction project needed him, that I'd only be gone 3 days. Are you sure? His hands cupped my face, searching my eyes. You seem scared. Just worried, I said, which wasn't a lie. The flight to Boston felt like traveling to another dimension. Julian had sent a private car. I'd refused the jet, and as we drove through Beacon Hill, past the brownstones I'd grown up among, I felt the weight of my 2 lives colliding. The Thornfield estate sprawled across 12 acres, a monument to old money and older traditions. My mother waited at the door, Catherine Thornfield, silver-haired and steel-spined, wearing pearls that cost more than most people's cars. Maribel. She never called me Mara. You look worn. Hard work does that, I replied coolly. Yes, I heard about your little experiment in poverty. How quaint. She gestured inside. Your father's in the study. Try not to upset him. The doctors say stress accelerates the decline. The house smelled of old books and older secrets. I found my father in his leather chair, thinner than I remembered. His once commanding presence diminished by illness, but his eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, were unchanged. Maribel, his voice was gravel, come to watch me die? Julian said you wanted to see me. Your brother exaggerates, but since you're here, he pushed a folder across the desk. Read this. It concerns your situation. Inside were documents I didn't understand at first. Legal papers, photographs, financial records. Then I saw it. My shell corporation. The anonymous donations. The construction company. They knew. You thought you were so clever, my father said, almost proudly, hiding your money, playing benefactor. But money leaves trails, Maribel, and your trails led straight to a construction worker named River Castellano. My blood ran cold. What did you do? Me? Nothing. Yet. He leaned back. But your husband deserves to know who he married, don't you think? The question is whether you tell him or I do. It was blackmail, elegantly packaged as fatherly concern. But my father wasn't finished destroying me. There's a condition to your inheritance, my father continued. You return to the family. You take your seat on the board. You end this ridiculous charade with the construction worker. He's my husband, I said sharply. A marriage easily annulled. We'll compensate him generously. 5 million should soothe any broken heart. The casual cruelty in his voice was familiar. Or you refuse, and I'll make sure River Castellano knows exactly who his wife is and how she's been manipulating his life. I'll destroy the construction company, blacklist him from every project in the Northeast, and ensure he spends the rest of his life wondering if anything about your marriage was real. Tears burned my eyes. Why are you doing this? Because you're a Thornfield, because you have responsibilities, because... He coughed, a wet, rattling sound. Because I won't die knowing my daughter threw away everything I built for some romantic fantasy. My mother appeared in the doorway. Maribel, darling, be reasonable. You had your little rebellion. It's time to come home. I looked at them, these people who'd raised me, shaped me, and apparently learned nothing about who I actually was, and made a decision. I'll tell him myself, I said, on my terms, and then I'll handle the inheritance my way. My father smiled, a thin, joyless expression. You have 48 hours. Then I make the call. I left that house knowing two things with certainty. I had to tell River the truth, and my family would never let me go easily. But I underestimated just how far they'd go, because while I flew home to confess, my brother was already setting his trap. I rehearsed the confession 100 times on the flight back. River, I need to tell you something. I'm not who you think I am. My real name is Maribel Thornfield, and I'm worth $700 million. I lied because I wanted to know if you could love me for me. The words sounded insane in my head. They'd sound worse out loud. But when I walked into our apartment, River wasn't there. Instead, I found a note on the kitchen counter in his handwriting. Mara, at the construction site. Emergency. Be home late. Love you. Relieved to have more time, I collapsed on the couch, emotionally exhausted. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check your email. Consider it a wedding gift from your loving brother. J. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. The email contained a single video file. I clicked play, and my world imploded. It was security footage from our apartment building, time-stamped over the past 6 months. But edited into the video were financial statements showing my transactions, screenshots of the Shell Corporation, records of every anonymous donation, and a voiceover, Julian's voice explaining everything in clinical detail. River Castellano, you should know the woman you married isn't Mara Sinclair, struggling waitress. She's Maribel Thornfield, billionaire heiress, who's been secretly funding your employer, manipulating your career, and lying to you since the day you met. Every promotion, every raise, all orchestrated by your wife. Your entire life together is a fraud. The video ended with my family's contact information and a final message. Call us when you're ready to learn the whole truth. I stared at the screen, horror washing over me. Julian hadn't waited. He'd sent this to River. I was sure of it. The emergency at the construction site was probably River fleeing, processing, trying to understand. I grabbed my phone, called him. Voicemail. Texted, River, please, let me explain. Whatever you heard, I can explain. No response. I waited 1 hour, 2, 5. Midnight came and went. He didn't come home. At 3 a.m., my phone finally rang. But it wasn't River. Miss Thornfield, an unfamiliar female voice. This is Portland General Hospital. Your husband has been in an accident. Everything I'd feared was coming true, and I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. River lay in the hospital bed, face bruised, left arm in a cast, monitors beeping steadily. The doctor said he'd crashed his truck into a guardrail on Highway 26. Not speeding, not drunk, just distracted. Drove straight off the road like he wasn't paying attention to anything. I knew why. I sat beside him, holding his uninjured hand, tears streaming down my face. He was unconscious, sedated for the pain. I had time before he woke up, time to figure out what to say, how to fix this. But then Julian walked in. Tragic, he said, examining the monitors with false concern. All because you couldn't just come home. I stood, fury replacing fear. You did this. You sent him that video knowing what? That he'd be upset to learn his wife is a liar. That's on you, sister. I just provided information. Julian crossed his arms. But I'm here with a solution. You come home, handle the inheritance, and I'll make this go away. I'll spin a story, mistaken identity, a vindictive ex-employee, something. River never has to know the truth. You divorce quietly, we compensate him, and everyone moves on. I'm not divorcing him. Then you're condemning him to a life of doubt. Every memory he has with you is now poison. Every moment he'll question. Was it real? Did she ever actually love me? Or was I just a project, a poor boy she played with? Julian's voice turned cold. You can't unring this bell, Maribel. The kindest thing you can do is let him go. I wanted to scream, to rage, but River stirred, groaning softly, and everything else faded. Get out, I whispered, before I call security. Julian left, but his words stayed, burrowing into my brain like parasites. River's eyes opened slowly, focused on me, and in them I saw something that broke me more than any of my father's threats or Julian's manipulations. Hurt. Deep, unfathomable hurt. Is it true? His voice was rough from the intubation during surgery. Are you... her? The Thornfield heiress? I couldn't lie anymore. Yes. He closed his eyes, tears leaking from the corners. Everything was fake. No. River, no. The marriage is real. My love for you is real. I hid my background because I wanted you to know the real me, not the money. You lied. He opened his eyes again, and they were harder now. Every day, every conversation, every time I worried about paying rent, about saving for our future. You were worth millions, and you said nothing. I was going to tell you. When? After another year? 5 years? Never? He tried to sit up, winced in pain. I shared everything with you. My fears, my dreams, my insecurities about not being good enough. And you just watched me struggle. Watch me stress about money while you could have solved everything with a phone call. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me, Maribel. Help me understand how the woman I married could be a complete stranger. I couldn't, because he was right. And as I searched for words that didn't exist, someone else walked into that hospital room who would change everything. The woman who entered was in her 60s, elegant in a way that suggested money, but not ostentation. She had kind eyes and silver-streaked dark hair, and she moved with the confidence of someone used to getting her way, but gently. Maribel, she said, I thought I'd find you here. I stared. Aunt Vivian? My father's only sister, the black sheep of the Thornfield family, because she'd married for love instead of dynasty. I hadn't seen her since I left home. She'd been the only one who hadn't tried to drag me back. River looked between us, confused. Vivian approached his bedside. Mr. Castellano, I'm Vivian Thornfield Cole, Maribel's aunt, and I need to tell you something about my niece that her family will never admit. Vivian, don't, I started. Hush, darling. He deserves the full story, not the edited version your brother provided. She turned to River. Do you know why Maribel left her family? River shook his head slightly. Because when she was 22, she was engaged to a man named Harrison Blackwell. Brilliant match on paper, 2 fortunes combined. But Maribel discovered Harrison was embezzling from his own company's pension fund. She went to her father, expecting he'd help expose it. Instead, Robert covered it up, said it was bad for business, that Harrison would straighten out after marriage, that she needed to be a team player. I closed my eyes, the old shame washing over me. Maribel broke the engagement, and when Harrison's crimes eventually came to light, because of an anonymous tip to federal investigators, the Blackwell family lost everything. Harrison went to prison, and my niece became a pariah in her own family for betraying her class, as her mother so charmingly put it. River's expression shifted slightly. She turned him in. She chose justice over loyalty to her corrupt world, and it cost her everything: her family's respect, her social standing, her sense of belonging. Vivian sat at the edge of River's bed. So when she walked away 2 years ago, it wasn't rebellion, it was survival. She needed to know if there was any part of her life that wasn't contaminated by money and manipulation. That doesn't excuse the lying, River said, but his voice was softer. No, Vivian agreed. It doesn't. She should have told you, but I understand why she didn't. And I think, if you're honest, you do too. She handed him a folder, different from the one my father had shown me. These are records of every anonymous donation Maribel made over the past 2 years, not just to your company, to veterans programs, women's shelters, after-school programs in poor neighborhoods. She's given away $40 million, asking for nothing in return except to remain anonymous. Vivian's voice turned fierce. My niece is many things, but she's not the villain her family's trying to paint. She's someone who wanted desperately to be loved for herself and made terrible choices trying to protect that. River read through the documents, his jaw tight. I'll leave you two to talk, Vivian said, standing. She kissed my forehead. Your father's playing his endgame, sweetheart. Don't let him win. After she left, silence stretched between us. Finally, River spoke. I don't know if I can forgive this. I know, I whispered, but I don't know if I can let you go either. He met my eyes. Because under all the lies, I still see the woman I fell in love with. I need time to figure out what's real. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't the end. We had 48 hours before my father made his move. 48 hours to salvage something, anything, from the wreckage of our marriage. If your heart is racing right now, if you need to know whether River and Mara survive this, smash that like button and subscribe, because the next twist will leave you absolutely speechless. Turn on those notifications, because what happens when her father's deadline arrives will change this story in ways you can't imagine. River was released from the hospital the next morning. We rode home in silence, my mind racing with possibilities. I had 24 hours before my father's deadline, 24 hours to fix the unfixable. But when we opened the apartment door, we found Julian waiting inside. Breaking and entering now, I said coldly. I have a key. Landlord's a friend of the family. Julian held up his phone. Father's getting worse. The lawyers need you to sign documents today, or the company starts crumbling. You've run out of time, Maribel. River leaned against the counter, watching this unfold with an unreadable expression. What if I let it crumble? I said. What if I just walk away from all of it? Julian laughed. Then 5,000 people lose their jobs, pension funds evaporate, hospitals we fund close. You might hate our family, but you're not cruel enough to destroy innocent lives out of spite. He was right. Damn him. Fine, I said. I'll come to Boston. I'll sign whatever needs signing, but I'm doing it on my terms, and River comes with me. Both men looked surprised. No, Julian said. This is family business. He's my family now, I interrupted. If you want my cooperation, he comes. Non-negotiable. Julian's eyes narrowed, calculating. Finally, fine. The jet leaves in 2 hours. After he left, River spoke for the first time. You don't have to protect me. I'm not protecting you. I'm done hiding. I turned to him. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But come with me. See the world I ran from. Then decide if what we have is worth fighting for. He studied my face for a long moment. Okay. It wasn't much, but it was something. What neither of us knew was that my family had prepared a trap more elaborate than anything I'd imagined. The private jet was obscene. All leather seats and polished wood, a flying monument to excess. River sat quietly, taking it all in. I could see him recalculating everything he thought he knew about me. I really did work at the diner, I said softly. That wasn't fake. The hours, the sore feet, the rude customers, all real. Why? He asked. If you could buy the whole diner chain, why scrub tables? Because I needed to know I could survive without the money, that I was more than just my last name. I met his eyes. And because I needed to meet someone who'd love me without it. But I never got that choice, he said. You decided for both of us. It was a fair accusation. I had no defense. The Thornfield estate looked even more imposing than before. As we approached, I saw expensive cars lining the circular driveway, a board meeting probably. My father, even dying, couldn't resist a power play. My mother greeted us at the door, her smile plastic. Maribel, and you brought your companion. My husband, I corrected. River Castellano. Of course, Catherine's assessment of River was quick and dismissive. The board is waiting in the main conference room. Mr. Castellano can wait in the... He comes with me, I said firmly. My mother's eyes flashed, but she acquiesced. As you wish. The conference room held 15 people. Board members, lawyers, my father in a wheelchair at the head of the table, and Julian beside him, wearing a triumphant expression that made my skin crawl. Maribel, my father rasped, you made it. And brought entertainment. River's hand tightened on mine. Let's get this over with, I said. What needs signing? A lawyer pushed forward a stack of documents. Standard inheritance paperwork. Confirmation of your stake in Thornfield Industries, your seat on the board, transfer of trusts. I skimmed the first page and froze. This isn't inheritance paperwork. This is a contract making me CEO. Father's stepping down, Julian said smoothly, for health reasons. And you're the eldest. The board voted. Without consulting me? Why would we? My father's smile was cold. You're a Thornfield. It's your birthright. Your responsibility. I felt the trap closing. And if I refuse? Then your brother assumes control, with his first act being the dissolution of several unprofitable ventures, including, my father consulted a paper, a certain construction company in Portland that employs approximately 200 workers. River went rigid beside me. You'd destroy 200 livelihoods to manipulate me, I said, voice shaking. I'd do what's necessary for the company's financial health, Julian interjected. That construction firm operates on razor-thin margins. It's a liability. Only because you've been systematically undercutting their contracts, I shot back. I've seen the financial records. You've been sabotaging them. Prove it. Julian's smile was poison. This was it. The ultimatum. Become CEO, return to the family, or watch them destroy everything I'd tried to build, and everyone I'd tried to help. I looked at River, saw him watching me, waiting to see what I'd choose. And suddenly, I understood. This wasn't just about controlling me. It was about proving that no one escapes the Thornfield empire. That money always wins. That love, integrity, independence, all of it was just illusion. And power was the only truth. I picked up the pen, but as the pen touched paper, River did something that changed everything. "Don't sign it," River's voice cut through the room. Every head turned toward him. "Excuse me?" My father's eyebrows rose. "Mr. Castellano, you're here as a courtesy." "I'm here because my wife invited me, and I'm telling her not to sign." River stood, addressing the entire board. "I'm a construction worker. I don't have fancy degrees or understand corporate law, but I know a shakedown when I see one." "River," I started, "let me finish." His honey-colored eyes were fierce. "You people are threatening to destroy 200 jobs to force Mara into compliance. That's not business. That's terrorism. And if you think she'll crumble because you're threatening people she cares about, you don't know your daughter at all." My mother scoffed. "Young man, you're out of your depth." "Maybe, but I'm not wrong." River turned to me. "Mara, you left this world because it was corrupt, because these people value control over conscience. Are you really going to let them drag you back because they're holding workers hostage? If I don't, those workers lose everything. They lose one job from one company, which you could replace in a heartbeat with your money." River's voice softened. "But if you sign that paper, you lose yourself, and we lose any chance of figuring out if our marriage means anything." Silence fell. Then my father spoke. "How touching. But Mr. Castellano doesn't understand the complexities. I understand that you're a bully with a terminal illness, trying to control your daughter from beyond the grave," River interrupted. "I understand that you've built an empire on intimidation. And I understand that Mara's been running from you because you never once asked her what she wanted. You just told her what she owed." My father's face purpled with rage. "Security." "No," I said quietly, then louder. "No." I set down the pen, stood, took River's hand. "I'm not signing," I told the room. "Do whatever you want with the construction company. Do whatever you want with my inheritance. But I'm done being your chess piece." Julian shot to his feet. "You'll regret this." "The only regret I have is not walking away sooner." I looked at my father. "You're dying, and instead of making peace, you're trying to control me one last time. That's not love. That's pathology." My mother's voice was ice. "If you walk out that door, you're disowned. Completely. No inheritance, no trust funds, no family." "I walked away from all that 2 years ago," I replied. "You just never accepted it." "You foolish girl." "No," Aunt Vivian's voice rang from the doorway. "She's the bravest person in this room." My aunt walked in, and I noticed she wasn't alone. Behind her were 3 people I didn't recognize. 1 man in a suit, 2 women with briefcases. "What's this?" my father demanded. "This," Vivian said pleasantly, "is the legal team I've been working with for the past 6 months, along with the investigative journalists from the Boston Herald. They've been very interested in Thornfield Industries' recent business practices." The room erupted. Julian went white. My father sputtered. The board members exchanged panicked glances. One of the women stepped forward. "We have documented evidence of contract manipulation, bid rigging, and deliberate sabotage of competitor companies. including the construction firm in Portland. We also have testimony from several former Thornfield employees about unsafe working conditions, environmental violations, and financial misconduct. This is absurd, my father began. It's also completely legal journalism protected by the First Amendment, the suited man said. The story runs tomorrow morning. Unless, of course, certain concessions are made. Vivian smiled at me. I told you I'd help when you were ready, darling. I stared at my aunt, understanding dawning. How long have you been planning this? Since the day you left. I've been waiting for the right moment, when Robert would push too far and you'd finally be ready to push back. She turned to the board. Here's what's going to happen. Maribel walks away free and clear. No strings, no obligations, no inheritance. She doesn't want it anyway. In exchange, this story never sees print. You're blackmailing us? Julian spat. I'm negotiating. Something this family should understand. Vivian's expression hardened. Robert gets to die in peace, instead of in scandal. The company survives, and Maribel finally gets the freedom she deserves. Everyone wins. My father looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Defeat. Fine, he rasped. She's free. But she leaves with nothing. She leaves with her dignity, Vivian interrupted, which is more than any of you have. But as we turned to leave, my father had one final card to play. Maribel, wait. My father's voice stopped me at the conference room door. I turned. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by illness and defeat. There's something you should know about your husband. River tensed beside me. Don't, Julian warned. Father, I'm dying. I'll say what I want. My father's gaze fixed on River. Tell her, Mr. Castellano. Tell her why you really married her. My blood ran cold. What? River's face had gone pale. Robert, I swear. Harrison Blackwell, my father continued, speaking to me. Your ex-fiancé? He got out of prison 8 months ago. And he was very interested in finding you. Very interested in revenge. What does that have to do with River? Harrison hired private investigators, tracked you to Portland, and then he did something clever. He had someone approach you, someone ordinary, genuine, perfect, someone you'd never suspect. No, I whispered. The meeting at the coffee shop wasn't an accident, my father said. River Castellano was paid $50,000 by Harrison Blackwell to romance you, marry you, and destroy you from the inside. Wasn't he, Mr. Castellano? The room spun. I turned to River, searching his face for denial. His silence was deafening. River, my voice broke. Tell me it's not true. He looked at me with devastated eyes. Mara, tell me. It's true, he said quietly. Harrison approached me 9 months ago, offered me money to get close to you, earn your trust, marry you. The plan was to make you fall in love, then expose everything, reveal that even when you tried to escape your world, you couldn't tell real from fake. I couldn't breathe. The betrayal was complete, total. Everything was a lie? At first, yes, River's voice shook. The coffee shop, the dates, all of it, orchestrated. But Mara, somewhere along the way, it became real for me. I fell in love with you, the real you. I stopped communicating with Harrison. I gave the money back. When? I demanded. When did you supposedly have this change of heart? 3 months before the wedding. I tried to tell you. You married me. The scream tore from my throat. You married me, knowing it started as a con. Because I loved you. Because I thought... You thought what? that I'd never find out, that the lie didn't matter if the feelings became real. Tears streamed down my face. My whole life has been people lying to me, using me, manipulating me for money or power or revenge. And you were supposed to be different. You were supposed to be the one real thing. I am, River pleaded. Mara, please. But I was already moving, running, out of the conference room, through the mansion, into the rain that had started falling. I heard River calling my name, heard footsteps behind me, but I didn't stop, couldn't stop. I ran until I reached the garden maze, the same maze I'd hidden in as a child, when my parents fought about money or status or which merger would benefit the family most. I collapsed on a stone bench, sobbing. This was my punishment, I realized, for thinking I could escape, for believing in fairy tales. The universe was teaching me the lesson my family had tried to teach all along. Trust no one, love nothing, because everything was transactional. Maribel, Aunt Vivian found me. She sat beside me, saying nothing, just letting me cry. Finally, when the sobs subsided, she spoke. Your father's cruelty truly knows no bounds. River admitted it, I said bitterly. It's true. Part of it's true. The beginning. But not the rest. Vivian handed me her phone. I did some investigating of my own. Look. On the screen was a bank transaction. $50,000 deposited into River Castellano's account 9 months ago. But there was more. Screenshots of messages between River and Harrison. Harrison. So, have you made contact? River. This doesn't feel right. She's a real person, not a target. Harrison. That's the point. Make her suffer like she made me suffer. River. I can't do this. I'm out. Harrison. We have a contract. River. Sue me. The messages continued. River refusing, Harrison threatening, and finally, River wiring back the $50,000 plus interest. The date? 6 months ago, 3 months before our wedding. He told you the truth, Vivian said softly. He started as a plant, but he changed. He tried to walk away before things got serious. And when Harrison wouldn't let him, he returned the money and cut ties completely. Why didn't he tell me? I whispered. For the same reason you didn't tell him about your money. Fear, shame, believing the lie was too big to overcome. She squeezed my hand. You two are more alike than you realize. I stared at the messages, my mind reeling. River had tried to protect me in his own damaged way, just as I'd tried to protect him in mine. We'd both made terrible choices based on good intentions. But was that enough? I didn't know. But I was about to find out, because River appeared in the maze, and the words he said next would determine everything. River stood at the maze entrance, soaking wet from the rain, looking broken. I know you hate me. You should. I hate myself. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, voice raw. Before the wedding. Before I said, I do. Why let me walk into a marriage built on lies? Because I was a coward. Because I convinced myself that if the love was real, the beginning didn't matter. Because, his voice cracked. Because I knew if I told you, I'd lose you. And I couldn't bear that. So you let me find out this way. From my father, of all people. I tried to tell you so many times. The night you met my mother, our anniversary, last Tuesday when you came home from work. He stepped closer. But every time I started, I saw how you looked at me, like I was good, like I was trustworthy, and I couldn't destroy that. I was selfish and wrong, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said. I know, but it's all I have. River knelt in the wet grass before me. Mara, Maribel, whoever you are, whoever you want to be, I love you. That's real. The way my heart beats faster when you walk in a room. The way I know your coffee order and how you bite your lip when you're concentrating, and that you have nightmares about your family, and I hold you until they pass. That's real. All of it. How do I know? Tears mixed with rain on my face. How do I trust anything now? You don't. You can't. I destroyed that. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. But if you're willing, if there's any part of you that believes we're worth salvaging, I'll spend the rest of my life proving it wasn't all a lie. I'll be so honest it hurts. I'll tell you every thought, every fear, every doubt. No more secrets, no more protection, just truth. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But wanting wasn't enough. I need time, I said finally. Space, to figure out who I am without all these lies. How much time? I don't know. River stood, devastated, but accepting. Okay, I'll wait, however long it takes. He started to walk away, but I called out, River? He turned. Do you regret it? Meeting me? His answer came without hesitation. Never. Not for a single second. Meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. Even if I ruined it, you taught me what love could be, what I could be, when I tried to be better. He left, and I sat in the rain, more alone than I'd ever been. But while I mourned my marriage, my father was making one final devastating move. My father died 3 days later, quietly, in his sleep, with my mother and Julian at his bedside. I wasn't there, didn't want to be, but I attended the funeral, a spectacle of false grief and social posturing. Hundreds of people who'd never liked Robert Thornfield pretending he was a titan, a visionary, a family man. The lies piled so high, I nearly choked on them. River came, stood at the back of the church, didn't approach me. But I felt his presence like a physical thing. After the ceremony, the lawyer read the will. Despite everything, my father had left me something. A letter. I opened it alone in the car. Maribel, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Good. I was a terrible father. Controlling. Manipulative. Cruel. You deserved better. But I want you to understand something. Everything I did because I was terrified. Terrified you'd end up like Vivian, cut off, struggling, dependent on someone who might leave. I thought money was protection. Control was love. I was wrong. Your husband, River, he's a good man. I investigated him thoroughly after Harrison's scheme fell apart. River returned the money, quit the con, and married you, despite knowing it could all blow up in his face. That's either incredibly stupid or incredibly brave. I suspect both. Here's what I'm giving you. The deed to the Portland Construction Company. It's yours, free and clear. Do with it what you will. Build something good. Something that doesn't have my taint on it. I'm sorry I never told you I was proud of you. I was. Every day. You were the only one who had the spine to walk away. Robert. I read it twice, then called Vivian. Did you know about this? The construction company? Yes. Your father asked me to broker the deal before he died. He couldn't stand the idea of Julian running it into the ground. She paused. What will you do? I don't know yet. But tell me honestly, do you think River and I can fix this? I think love is like your father's letter, full of mistakes and regrets, but real underneath if you're brave enough to dig past the damage. Vivian's voice was gentle. The question is whether you're brave enough. I was about to find out, because when I returned to Portland, I discovered River had made a choice that would force mine. The apartment was empty when I got back. No note, no River, just silence and the ghost of what we'd been. I sat on the couch, the same couch where we'd watched movies and argued about pizza toppings and made love on Sunday mornings, and finally let myself feel everything. The grief, the anger, the love that somehow still persisted despite the wreckage. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. If you want to find your husband, he's at the construction site, working late. He does that a lot now. Concerned co-worker. I drove there in the dark. The site was mostly empty, but lights blazed from the main office trailer. Through the window, I saw River, hunched over blueprints, exhausted and beautiful, and so achingly familiar, my chest hurt. I knocked. He looked up, shocked. "Mara, can I come in?" He opened the door wordlessly. I entered, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. "I read my father's will," I said. "He left me the company. This company." River's expression was unreadable. "I heard. The board told us this morning." "I'm signing it over to the workers," I continued, "making it a co-op, employee-owned. No Thornfield control, no corporate exploitation, just good people doing good work for fair pay." That's incredible, Mara. "I need a good foreman to help manage it, someone the workers trust, someone who understands construction and integrity." I met his eyes. "I want it to be you." "Mara, I'm not doing this to win you back," I interrupted. "I'm doing it because it's right, and because you're the best person for the job. But if you take it, we work together. We'll see each other every day. And I don't know if I can handle that if we're what?" River asked quietly. "Broken." He stepped closer. "What if we're not broken? What if we're just damaged and trying to heal? Is that possible?" "I don't know, but I want to try. If you do." He took my hand, tentative, asking permission. "I love you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know trust takes time to rebuild, but I'm asking anyway. Please, give us a chance." I looked at our joined hands, thought about everything we'd been through, every lie, every truth, every moment of real connection buried under layers of deception. "Okay," I whispered, "but we do this differently. Complete honesty. No more protecting each other with secrets. If we're scared, we say so. If we're angry, we say so. No more assumptions. No more lies, even kind ones." "Agreed," River said. "Starting now, I'm terrified. I'm terrified you'll wake up one day and realize you can do better than a construction worker who once sold you out for cash." "And I'm terrified," I replied, "that no matter what we do, we'll never escape what we were, that the lies will always be there between us." "Then we live with the fear," he said, "together." I kissed him then, soft, tentative, tasting salt and hope and second chances. It wasn't like our first kiss, full of passion and pretense. It was better, real, built on ruins but reaching for something new. We had no idea that as we tried to rebuild, someone from the past was about to return with vengeance in mind. 3 months later, River and I were still navigating our rebuilt relationship. Therapy twice a week, individual and couples, hard conversations, small moments of joy. It was messy and difficult and worth it. The construction co-op was thriving. The workers had named it Second Chance Construction, which felt appropriate. We'd landed several major contracts, including one with the city for affordable housing development. I'd also officially, legally changed my name to Mara Castellano, severing the last tie to the Thornfield name. Vivienne was the only family I maintained contact with. Julian had tried to reach out once, but I'd blocked his number. River and I were at the site office one evening when a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Harrison Blackwell. He looked different, harder, thinner, with a veneer of barely contained rage. Prison had not been kind. Well, Harrison drawled. The happy couple. How touching. River immediately moved between us. You need to leave. Why? I just came to congratulate you both, Mara, for finally finding someone who could look past the money. Oh wait, that didn't work out, did it? Harrison's smile was poisonous. And River, for completing the con even after you tried to bail. That takes real commitment. Harrison, this is private property, I started. Do you know what's funny? Harrison interrupted. I spent 2 years in prison because of you, Mara. 2 years of my life gone because you couldn't just be a good little wife and look the other way. And all I wanted was revenge. Make you feel what I felt. Betrayed. Alone. Destroyed. Then you failed, I said coldly, because I'm not destroyed. No, because from where I'm standing, you married a man who was paid to seduce you. Your family disowned you. You're working at a construction company instead of running an empire. Seems pretty destroyed to me. River's fists clenched. Get out before I make you. I'm leaving. But I wanted you to know, I'm not done. I've spent the last 3 months rebuilding my reputation, my fortune, and I'm coming for everything you built. Your little co-op? I've already started buying up the contractors you work with. Your city contract? I've got friends on the city council. By the time I'm done, you'll be exactly where I was, broken and bankrupt. Harrison turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and River, that video confession your wife's family made about you? The one where you admit you were a con artist? It'd be a shame if that leaked to your workers. I wonder how they'd feel, knowing their beloved foreman started as a fraud. He left, and River immediately pulled out his phone. I need to call our lawyer. No, I said quietly. We're not playing his game. Mara, he's serious. He'll destroy the company. Let him try. I took River's hand. We've survived worse. We'll survive this too. But privately, I was terrified. Because Harrison Blackwell was relentless, vindictive, and had nothing left to lose. And within a week, his assault began. Systematic, vicious, and aimed at our weakest point. Harrison's attack was surgical. Within 2 weeks, 3 of our major material suppliers cancelled contracts, citing financial concerns. 2 contractors we partnered with mysteriously dropped out of projects. The city council delayed our affordable housing contract, pending additional review. And worst of all, an anonymous source leaked to the workers that River had originally been paid to seduce me. The last one nearly destroyed us. I called a company-wide meeting. All 200 workers crammed into the warehouse space, murmuring, suspicious. River stood beside me, his jaw tight. I know you've heard rumors, I began, about River and me, about how we met, and I'm here to tell you the truth. I told them everything, the inheritance I'd hidden, Harrison's scheme, River's initial involvement, and his choice to walk away. Our marriage built on mutual lies and real love. I held nothing back. When I finished, silence. Then Marcus, one of our senior carpenters, a man in his 50s who'd worked construction for 30 years, stood up. "So let me get this straight," he said. "Boss, River, you were hired to seduce Miss Castellano, but you fell in love for real and tried to back out." "Yes," River said quietly. "And you, Miss Castellano, you were secretly rich but worked a diner job and married River without telling him." "Yes," Marcus scratched his beard. "And now you're both running this co-op, trying to make an honest company that treats us fair." "Yes," we said together. Marcus looked at the other workers. "Show of hands. Who here hasn't done something they regret? Something they wish they could take back?" Every hand rose. Right. So these two made mistakes before they even knew us. But since this co-op started, I've gotten the best pay of my career. My daughter's in college because of the education fund Miss Castellano set up. My health insurance actually covers things. He turned to us. "Far as I'm concerned, what you did before don't matter. What you do now, that's what counts." Other workers nodded, voiced agreement, and slowly, impossibly, the tension eased. "We're with you," Marcus said. "So let's figure out how to beat this Blackwell bastard." And that's when I had an idea. Dangerous, possibly illegal, but it might just work. "We go public," I said at the emergency strategy meeting that night. River, Vivian, our lawyer, and Marcus sat around our apartment. "Public how?" the lawyer asked. "Harrison's using his money and connections to destroy us quietly. So we take the story public, expose exactly what he's doing and why, make it impossible for him to operate in the shadows." "That's risky," Vivian warned. "You'd be exposing your own past." "Which is already exposed," I interrupted. "The workers know. My family knows. The only people who don't know are the general public, and frankly, I don't care what strangers think anymore." River squeezed my hand. "I'm with you. Whatever you need." We crafted a statement, honest, unflinching, explaining everything. Harrison's original crime, his prison sentence, his revenge plot against me, his current sabotage of the co-op. We included documentation, financial records, text messages, testimony from the workers. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called a press conference. The media turnout was massive. The story had everything: billionaire heiress, romance, betrayal, revenge, redemption. We stood before cameras and told our truth. "My name is Mara Castellano, formerly Maribel Thornfield," I began. "And this is the story of how I tried to escape my past and learned you can only outrun your mistakes for so long before you have to face them." I spoke for 20 minutes. River spoke for 10. We answered questions honestly, even the brutal ones. "Do you regret marrying him?" "Never," I said, meeting River's eyes. "Was any of it real?" "All of it," River replied. "Every moment since I realized I loved her." We finished by calling out Harrison specifically. "Harrison Blackwell is attempting to destroy a company of 200 workers because he wants revenge on me. He's using his wealth and influence to punish innocent people. This isn't business, it's cruelty. And we're asking anyone who believes in second chances, in redemption, to stand with us." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded. The story went viral. Second chance construction trended. People shared their own stories of mistakes and redemption. And most importantly, businesses started calling, offering contracts, partnerships, support. Harrison's power play had backfired spectacularly. But Harrison Blackwell didn't become successful by accepting defeat. Harrison's response came 3 days later, a lawsuit. He was suing us for defamation, claiming we'd destroyed his reputation with malicious lies. "This is ridiculous," our lawyer said, reviewing the filing. "Everything you said was documented fact." "He knows that," Vivian interrupted. "He's not trying to win. He's trying to bleed you dry with legal fees, bury you in court costs until the co-op collapses." She was right. The legal expenses alone could bankrupt us. But then something unexpected happened. Workers from other construction companies, people we'd never met, started a crowdfunding campaign. Save Second Chance Construction, they called it. Within 48 hours, they'd raised $800,000 for our legal defense. Letters poured in. A union in Seattle pledged support. A construction advocacy group offered pro bono legal assistance. People we'd helped anonymously came forward. Women's shelters, veterans programs, after-school initiatives, all vouching for our character. The tide had turned. And then Vivian dropped a bomb. "I have Harrison's financial records from his original embezzlement case. Records showing he's been doing the exact same thing at his new company. Cooking books, stealing from employee pensions. The statute of limitations hasn't run out." I stared at her. "How did you get those?" "I have friends in interesting places. The question is, do you want to use them?" It was tempting. So tempting. To destroy Harrison the way he'd tried to destroy us. But River shook his head. "No. We win clean, or not at all." "He's trying to destroy us," I started. "And we'll beat him in court, legally, without becoming what he is." River's voice was firm. "We prove we're better by being better." I looked at my husband, this man who'd started as a con artist and become the moral compass I needed, and fell in love with him all over again. "Okay," I said, "we do it your way." Vivian smiled. "Then I'll send these records to the federal prosecutors instead. Let them decide what to do with Harrison." What we didn't know was that Harrison had one final desperate card to play. It happened at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I woke to River's phone ringing. The site security guard panicked. "Fire! The main warehouse, it's burning." We arrived to find fire trucks already there, water arcing through smoke and flames. Our warehouse, containing all our tools, materials, records for active projects, was engulfed. The fire chief pulled me aside. "Arson. Someone broke in, poured accelerant, lit it up. Security cameras caught a figure, but they wore a mask." I knew without proof. Harrison. As dawn broke, we stood in the ruins. 200 workers showed up, seeing the smoke, wanting to help. What they found was devastation. $2 million in damages, months of work destroyed, contracts impossible to fulfill. Marcus stood beside me, soot-covered, tears streaming. "This is it, isn't it? We're done." I wanted to agree, wanted to give up, let Harrison win and walk away. But River spoke. "No, we rebuild." "With what?" someone called out. "We don't have the money." "Yes, we do," I said quietly. Then louder, "I still have access to my trust fund. I've been avoiding it, trying to prove I didn't need it. But this is different. This is war. And I'm done fighting with one hand tied behind my back." I made calls. Within 6 hours, I'd liquidated enough assets to cover all damages, plus 3 months of worker salaries while we rebuilt. It wasn't about money anymore, it was about family. These workers were my family. River was my family, and I'd use every penny of my hated inheritance to protect them. The rebuild began immediately. Workers from other companies showed up to help. Carpenters, electricians, plumbers, all volunteering their time. "You helped us," they said. "Now we help you." Within 2 weeks, we were operational again. Better than before, actually. New equipment, improved safety systems, stronger resolve. And then the news broke. Harrison Blackwell had been arrested. Federal charges of embezzlement, wire fraud, and arson. The prosecutors had moved fast. They'd been building a case for months, and our fire had given them the final piece. He'd destroyed himself, trying to destroy us. But the real victory came 3 days later, in a quiet moment that changed everything. River and I sat on the roof of our rebuilt warehouse, watching the sunset paint Portland in golds and pinks. Below, workers called out goodbyes, heading home to families. "We did it," River said quietly. "We actually survived." "More than survived," I replied. "We built something real." "Mara," he turned to me, and I saw nervousness in his eyes. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Always," I promised. "Do you ever regret it? Choosing this life over what you could have had? The empire, the wealth, the power?" I considered the question seriously. A year ago, even 6 months ago, I might have wavered. But now, "Not for a second," I said. "I have something my family never understood. I have meaning, purpose, a marriage built on truth instead of transaction. Workers who trust me because I earned it, not because I paid for it. Even though I started as a lie, especially because of that, because you chose to become something better. You taught me that past mistakes don't define us. Our choices right now do." River pulled a small box from his pocket. "Then I have something for you." Inside was a simple silver band. Nothing like the ostentatious engagement ring Harrison had given me years ago. Just clean, honest metal. "It's not expensive," River said. "I bought it with money I earned here, at the co-op, and I want to ask you to marry me again. But for real this time. No lies, no secrets, no games. Just us, building a life together, whoever we turn out to be." Tears streamed down my face. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." He slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, and kissed me as the sun set on our old lives and rose on something new. We thought that was our happy ending. But life had one more twist in store. 6 months later, I received a letter from my father's estate lawyers. There had been a secondary will, one my father had filed separately, that Julian and my mother hadn't known about. Inside was a trust fund in my name, but not for me. "Upon Maribel's death or designation," the letter read, "this trust, valued at $50 million, will be distributed to charitable causes she supports. Additionally, there is a personal fund of $10 million designated specifically for any children Maribel may have, to be used solely for education and emergency medical care. This money cannot be touched by her or her spouse and will be managed by an independent trustee until the children reach age 25. My father, who'd been terrible at love, had tried in his final act to give me what I'd always wanted, the freedom to choose my own life while ensuring any children I had would never struggle the way I'd feared River might. It was imperfect, controlling even in death, but it was also love, expressed the only way Robert Thornfield knew how. I cried reading it. River held me, and we talked about what it meant. "We don't have to use it," he said. "Any of it." "I know, but maybe we can. The charitable fund especially. Fund more co-ops, more second chance programs. Turn his money into something good." "And if we have kids someday?" River asked carefully. We'd been talking about children, tentatively acknowledging we still had healing to do first. "Then they get an education fund their grandfather set up, and we raise them to understand that money is a tool, not an identity, that what matters is what you build with your own hands and heart." River kissed my forehead. "Deal." And that's when I realized our story wasn't about escaping my past or overcoming River's mistakes. It was about integrating everything we'd been into, everything we were becoming. The ceremony was small, just the workers from Second Chance Construction, Aunt Vivian, a few close friends. River and I stood in the same chapel where we'd first married. But this time, everything was different. We rewrote our own vows. "River," I said, "I promise to tell you the truth, even when it's hard, to trust you with my fears, my doubts, my whole self, to build a life with you that's messy and real and completely ours." "Mara," he replied, "I promise to deserve the second chance you gave me, to choose you every day, not because of what you have, but because of who you are, to be the man you believed I could become." We exchanged our simple silver bands, matching now, and kissed as husband and wife for the second time. But this time, it felt like the first. The reception was at the construction site. We'd built a community center on part of the property, and this was its unofficial opening. Workers brought food from their cultures: Mexican, Vietnamese, Somali, Ukrainian. It was chaotic and loud and perfect. Marcus gave a speech. "A year ago, we were just laborers working for another man's profit. Today, we're owners of our own destiny, and we have these two crazy kids to thank for believing in us and in second chances." Everyone cheered. Later, as River and I danced under string lights, he whispered, "Are you happy?" I looked around, at the people we'd fought for, the community we'd built, the life we'd chosen together despite every obstacle. "I'm more than happy," I said. "I'm free." But our story doesn't end with happiness. It ends with a choice that defines everything. 3 months after our second wedding, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Ms. Castellano, this is Eleanor Park from the Department of Labor. We're investigating exploitative labor practices in the construction industry, and your name came up as a witness, not a subject. We understand you've been documenting fair labor practices, safety standards, and worker protections at your co-op. We'd like you to testify before Congress about potential legislation." I nearly dropped the phone. "Congress? You've built something remarkable, a model for how the industry could change. We think your story, and your workers' stories, could shift policy." I looked at River, who'd been listening on speaker. He nodded. "What would testimony involve?" I asked. "Explaining your model, sharing data on wages, safety, worker satisfaction, and," Eleanor paused, "discussing the obstacles you faced, including deliberate sabotage by larger companies. It would mean exposing ourselves again, reliving the Harrison situation, putting ourselves in the spotlight we'd finally escaped. But it would also mean protecting workers everywhere, creating systems that prevented exploitation, using my voice and my past for something bigger than ourselves." I'll do it, I said. We'll do it. River squeezed my hand. Together. And that testimony would change everything. Not just for us, but for an entire industry. Washington, D.C., in winter, was cold and imposing. River and I sat before the Congressional Committee, cameras rolling, our story about to become public record. Ms. Castellano, the committee chair began, you inherited a fortune, but chose to work in a diner. You married a man who originally approached you as part of a revenge scheme. You were nearly destroyed by a vindictive ex-fiancé who wanted to punish you for exposing his crimes. And yet, here you are, running a successful worker-owned construction cooperative. Why? I took a breath. Because I learned that systems matter more than individuals. My family's wealth was built on exploitation, legal but exploitative. And I wanted to prove that another way was possible, that you could treat workers fairly, pay living wages, provide real benefits, and still be profitable, that businesses could be communities, not hierarchies. Over the next 3 hours, River and I detailed everything: wage structures, profit-sharing models, safety protocols, mental health resources. We showed data proving that happy, well-paid workers were more productive, more loyal, and created better quality work. We also told our personal story, the lies, the betrayals, the choices to forgive and rebuild. Mr. Castellano, a congresswoman asked, you made a terrible choice initially, approaching your wife as part of a con. What would you say to people who think you shouldn't be running a business? River didn't flinch. I'd say they're right to be skeptical, but I'd also say that redemption is possible when someone commits to it. I returned the money. I confessed. I've spent every day since trying to be worthy of the second chance I was given. And I believe our society should be about rehabilitation, not permanent punishment, whether that's for someone like me or for workers trapped in exploitative jobs who need a second chance at a decent life. The room was silent, then scattered applause. Our testimony made national news. The legislation we advocated for, the Workers' Dignity Act, expanding protections and requiring profit sharing in companies over a certain size, gained momentum. But more than that, other co-ops started forming. Workers in other cities reached out, asking for our model. We became consultants, helping build a network of worker-owned businesses. My family's money, which I'd tried so hard to escape, became the seed funding for a movement. And 5 years later, everything had changed in ways I never could have imagined. I stood in our backyard, no longer the cramped apartment, but a modest house we'd bought together, paid for with money we'd both earned, watching River teach our 3-year-old daughter Sophia how to hammer a nail. Gentle, he said, guiding her small hands. Like this. Feel how the tool becomes part of you? Sophia giggled, delighted. She had River's eyes and my stubborn determination. Inside, I could hear the baby monitor. Our son, Robert, named for my father because forgiveness is complicated, sleeping peacefully. My phone rang. Vivian. Have you seen the news? She asked, excitement in her voice. No. Why? The Workers' Dignity Act just passed the Senate. It's going to the president's desk. Mara, you did it. You actually changed the system. I sat down heavily, overwhelmed. 5 years ago, I'd been a runaway heiress, terrified of her own name. Now, I'd helped reshape labor law. We did it, I corrected. All of us. That evening, the whole Second Chance construction family gathered at our house. 50 people crammed into our backyard, celebrating. Marcus brought his daughter, now a civil engineer, working with our co-op. Others brought their kids, their partners, their dreams made possible by stable work and fair wages. River found me in the kitchen, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "What are you thinking?" "That I spent so long trying to escape who I was born to be," I said. "And I finally realized I was born to be exactly this. Someone who fights for people who can't fight for themselves. I just had to learn it on my own terms." "Any regrets?" he asked, our ritual question, asked periodically to keep us honest. "Not one," I replied. "You?" "Only that I didn't meet you sooner, and honestly." He kissed my neck. "Think of all the time we wasted." I turned in his arms, or maybe we needed exactly the time we had to become who we needed to be. Through the window, I could see our daughter showing the other children how to hammer, already teaching, already building. Our son would wake soon, hungry and demanding. Tomorrow, we had meetings about expanding the co-op network to 12 more cities. Next week, River was speaking at a labor conference. Next month, I was meeting with senators about additional legislation. It would be exhausting, complicated, imperfect. It would be everything. Because this was the truth I'd learned. You don't escape your past. You don't erase your mistakes. You integrate them, learn from them, and use them to build something better. River and I had started with lies, both of us hiding, both of us afraid, but we'd built truth from that foundation, brick by painful brick. And in the end, we'd created something neither of us could have built alone, a life worth living, a love worth fighting for, and a legacy that would outlast us both. "Come on," River said, pulling me toward the door. "Our family's waiting." Our family. Not the one I was born into, but the one we'd chosen, the one we'd fought for, the one we'd built with our own scarred, imperfect hands. I took his hand, the silver ring catching the evening light, and walked into the noise and chaos and love of the life we'd earned. Together. As the celebration continued around us, I caught Sophia watching me with those serious, honey-colored eyes. "Mama," she said, "why is everyone so happy?" I knelt beside her. "Because, baby girl, we all get to choose who we become. And sometimes, the best version of yourself is the one you build after everything falls apart." She didn't fully understand. She was 3, but she would someday. And when she did, when she faced her own choices about who to become, I hoped she'd remember that her mother had been a billionaire and a waitress, a liar and a truth-teller, lost and found. That her father had been a con artist and a builder, a betrayer and a devoted husband, broken and healed. That together, we'd proved the most important truth of all. No one is just one thing, and second chances, earned honestly, are always worth taking. The music swelled. River spun Sophia in a circle, her laughter ringing out. Workers toasted to 5 years of success. Somewhere, legislation was being signed that would protect millions. And I, Mara Castellano, formerly Maribel Thornfield, forever a work in progress, smiled. Because this messy, complicated, hard-won life, it was everything I'd never known I needed. If this story moved you, if you believe in second chances, in redemption, in love that survives despite impossible odds, then this is your sign to take that chance on something in your own life. Because the truth is, we're all hiding something. We're all building lives on foundations that aren't perfect, and that's okay. What matters is what we choose to do next. Thank you for staying until the end of Mara and River's journey. Their story reminds us that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about perfection. They're about two imperfect people choosing each other every single day, despite everything. If this story of betrayal, redemption, and impossible love touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel for more emotional, dramatic romance stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Like this video if you believe in second chances and love that conquers all. Comment below and tell us, what moment hit you the hardest? Team Mara or Team River at the beginning? Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country. Let's see how far this story travels. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next dramatic billionaire romance. Share this video with someone who believes in love, redemption, and new beginnings.